Hello, hello. I was going to try and do a little fancy video essay review-ish intro, and I couldn't do it. My heart gave out, and I turned into goo. So instead, let's just go right into it. I've seen that Hades 2 technical test has dropped. There's new character designs. There's new art. I went and I replayed the first Hades after seeing it. And look, since the very first one, I've had such strong opinions on the character designs. I'm an ancient historian. I specialize in Greek religion, in Greek myth, and specifically Greek iconography. So, how gods and goddesses are represented in art is my whole thing. So, I have so many strong opinions, and I've never really talked about it. So, please join me, Ty Dearman, while I sort of ramble about this for however long it will be. I whipped up this PowerPoint in about 4 minutes. So I shan't hear any sass. Alrighty. I'd say let's start off with the Olympians, start off simple. Let's talk about Zeus. So I think the first thing you'll notice when looking at all these different designs is actually pretty much every god has on essentially a laurel wreath equivalent. So of course, in sort of modern pop culture, laurel wreath is very classically Greek. Generally, it was given to sort of winners of athletic games, of sort of things like that, like the Olympics, of course. Here, it's being used more as a symbol of sort of royalty, of divinity, which isn't quite the same, but in terms of communicating sort of grandeur, I think it definitely works. And it'll be very interesting that we'll see sort of throughout these character designs. But let's actually talk about Zeus himself. I've got the Hades 1 and the Hades 2 designs whenever they are relevant. So Hades 1 Zeus, excellent. Something we'll find with the sort of first game. Of course, it has the unique style with the heavy shadows, but the posing is so good. So we have Zeus. Of course, he's defined by his lightning bolts. He's a king of the sky, of lightning, of thunder, of weather. So he has the lightning bolts. He has the yellow color scheme in his clothes. He's shown to be very fancy with his sort of cuff bracer thing there with his gold jewelry, and of course he has a sort of slightly hint of a regular laurel wreath, and then a jagged lightning bolt wreath there, which is very inventive and very effective, I'd say. And so obviously he's posed quite strongly, like he's about to strike, but he looks quite wise. He's got the sort of old face, obviously strong physique. He's got all the typical things that make him seem not only associated with thunder, but sort of the patriarch, the king of the gods, which is excellent. Definitely my sort of favorite part, apart from the wreath, is actually sort of beard there, obviously sort of turning into clouds again, because he's associated with the heavens, with the sky. So I think this really captures all of those aspects really well. Hades 2 Zeus is good also, but I feel like it misses out on a little bit of the magic there. So they've really bulked up on the beard, on the hair, and it's definitely getting this sort of image of thunderclouds. It's obviously a bit darker. From what I understand, Hades 2 is a sort of Olympus is under siege, so everyone's a bit more serious, a bit more warlike. But I do feel like this sort of idea of clouds doesn't entirely come across as strongly. They do sort of extend out of the image there, but again, misses a little bit of the magic, in my opinion. Now he's got this big sort of breastplate on, normally bronze, but obviously sort of bright and shiny. He's a god, he can wear what he wants. It's sad to see, like, for example, on his little cuffs there, you're losing the sort of ornamentation that makes him look so fancy. It's a bit on his sort of breastplate there, but that's about it. You do see the lightning bolts along his sort of fake abs there. Again, bringing the lightning stuff to the fore, but looks a bit tacky. It's not a fair historical or artistic critique. I'm not a big fan, though. I do like he's wearing, if you see around his head, he's wearing this little band. Sort of a diadem equivalent. That is the actual sort of real symbol of kingship in the ancient world, is just a little band like that. Would usually be sort of ribbon, but seems to be more sort of gold bronze that's across his design here. So I think it's solid, but I feel like it lacks a lot of the sort of posing. I feel like his face is more interesting in the old one, so I think it's good, but, you know, not the best. Now we have Poseidon. I think his inspirations are quite clear. He's a god of the sea, and that is really quite obvious everywhere on his design. So he has, of course, little images of sort of sea creatures, of pearls. Of course, he's got his trident. Looking at Hades 1, you do see, like Zeus, his hair is sort of turning into water. He's got that sort of image popping up here. It's all pretty straightforward. I think the two favorite things, he's got that sort of wreath equivalent, but it's two seahorses, which is just adorable. I think absolutely the best part is the pose, though. Something that Hades does is, while these gods do have sort of vague characterizations in sort of original Greek myth, they're more sort of archetypes, they're more sort of associations than they are personalities. So I think it's definitely a good thing, an acceptable thing for Hades to just sort of make up personalities for these characters. And obviously this posing shows he's really laid back. He's the party uncle. So I think that's really good to communicate that. I will say, the long sort of goatee beard scenario, if I was next to him, I would cut it off with scissors. I can't say it's a bad design feature, but Hades 2, he's lost a bit of the sort of posing that makes him look fun. He's got the sort of smile expression, which makes him look more approachable. I don't like how he's looking into my eyes. It's a bit intense. But yeah, other than the expression, I feel there's not much that'll actually tell you that he is sort of laid back, that he is the fun uncle. I do like that his sort of little rim thing around his chest is iridescent. It's got a lot more of those sort of features on there. Again, gives the idea of sort of mother of pearl, that stuff, which I think that's a good change. Other than that, no, yeah, again, Poseidon's fine. Demeter, now, this is a chunky, munchy, crunchy design, if you'll accept that terminology. And I will say Demeter. I won't say Demeter, because I have a degree in ancient Greek and I can pronounce it however I'd like. Thank you very much. So Demeter in Hades 1. Demeter's typically a goddess of grain, of agriculture, of harvests. Here they sort of retextualized her as explicitly a goddess of seasons, which I guess she sort of is. But they very much made that her title. Specifically, in the first one, obviously, she's goddess of winter. Of course, her daughter Persephone is somewhere. She isn't nowhere. So she's very sad. She's covering the world in ice and snow. That's pretty typical to sort of Greek myth. And they're representing this part of her, which I found very fun. So, of course, she's got the big sort of heavy cloak. She's got the sort of ice tones. Frosted arms are actually very interesting. Some of my sort of favorite features, again, it's got ice, so it's got icicles, is like, sure, that's effective communication. But my favorite part probably is she has the sort of sheafs of sort of wheat or some sort of grain sort of framing her head, which makes her seem very grand. But again, is sort of frozen, is sort of dead. We find that as well with a sort of cornucopia hanging off her back there, which is traditionally a symbol of plenty. I don't think it really takes that form in the classical world. I think it's much later that it is sort of a horn in that shape, but symbol of plenty that's frosted over. I do love as well, she's holding in her hands a ribbon that Persephone has in her hair, which I literally only just noticed now, which is a great little addition. On the right-hand side, I hope I'm not covering it. I made my model very little itty-bitty, so hopefully I'm not. But it doesn't matter because I don't like this design very much. That's not true. I do like this design. We do see, obviously now she knows where her daughter is, so she is defrosting a little bit. Clearly we see the sort of leaves on her shoulder pads are melting a bit more into autumn. So again, changing of the seasons here. See that with the sort of grain as well, but I just think it's very uninteresting to just put her in armor. She's not a military character, and I know the point of this sort of game, of the sort of conceit of Hades 2, is that everyone's going to war, they're serious. I feel like there's just more interesting ways of having a agriculture goddess sort of seem serious. I guess they might have used all their ideas up in the last one. Ugh. Anyway, I think the good start, a good place that they did, is that, hopefully I'm not covering it, but she's holding a sickle, which is obviously used as a weapon. I believe Melanoe, the sort of protag, uses this as a weapon, but she's using a weapon typically used for harvest, or she's using a tool, rather, used for harvest and sort of wielding it as a weapon, which is a very classic but a very effective way of sort of communicating agricultural gone wild, gone nasty. So that's good. With sort of the armor she's wearing, I'm like, ugh. Make her look more like a general or like some sort of matriarch. I think that would be an interesting way to take it. Otherwise, this is fine. Artemis, honey. Hades one, she looks good. Actually, no, I really like her. I really like the first one. Of course, she has the bow and arrow. She's a huntress. That's her whole thing. So that's great to see. She's got a sort of pelt around her head. Again, she's hunting animals. Makes sense. She's wearing essentially just a little tunic, so very practical clothing. She's wearing the sort of crescent moon, again, because she is very much associated with the moon, with Selena, with Hecate even, when you look at sort of old spells and stuff. Again, one of my favourite parts is she's got the sort of horn headdress happening there. Again, hunter goddess, very much associated, for example, with deer, is a big part of her iconography. I like she's got on her arm, she's got the sort of wrappings. You could say maybe she got wounded on a hunt, but what I'd imagine it's communicating is often people will wear sort of guards on their arms to protect from sort of the thwapping of the bowstring, I guess. That wouldn't work because... No, it would work. She's holding that bow in that hand. So that would be where the string goes. Anyway, again, very much looks like an archer. Very much looks sort of practical and a little bit reserved. You can see her body language sort of tucked in, which works well for her characterization. And she has the little sort of crosshair on her eye there, which is very fun. Also, I will say, again, hair tied up. It looks like it's done to just get it out of the way. But you see, especially at the top of her head, she's got lots of stray strands. So she doesn't care about looking good. She just cares about not getting hair in her face while she's traipsing through the woods. Hades 2, I feel like loses a lot of that. She looks kind of sassy. She looks kind of friendly with that sort of, she's glaring straight at you. And the other one, she's sort of looking at you at the corner of your eye, like she's sort of, she's wary of you. And the next one, she's looking straight at you. I suppose she's supposed to be more of a sort of friendly figure, so that makes sense. Again, when it just comes to communicating her personality, feels a little bit lacking there. I assume she's holding a bow. It just looks a little bit less like a bow, which is difficult. Other than that, pretty similar. She doesn't have the crosshair, which makes me sad. Her hair is so, like, well done as well. She's got a fringe, or bangs, you say, if you're a foolish American. Just to have a stray, hateful remark in that direction. And rather than sort of a tunic, she's got this sort of like chest wrap and skirt, which works. It's a bit odd, but interesting. Aphrodite. Now, love me some Aphrodite. Oop. So, we can figure out what's going here, I assume. Aphrodite, goddess of love, pretty much, of a few other things, mainly a goddess of love, of sort of sensuality, physical intimacy. On the left, that is communicated, first off, by being naked. She's about love and having sex, so she doesn't have any clothes on. And in fact, I think that is quite an excellent way to do this. She's posed in a sort of alluring manner. Again, she's sort of leaning towards you, but she's posing in a way that she's going, oh, hello there. Which is a little bit odd when you consider that Zagreus would technically be her relative in some way. Oh well. Greek myth, what are you going to do? She's posed very alluringly, but again, her hair's covering her most sensitive areas. Her hair itself is very, I think, a great design choice. Long straight hair, again, I guess typically uh, associated with sort of beauty, which isn't. I wouldn't say the most true fact, but that is something when we think of sort of like supermodels, we often think of that, even if that is a incorrect assumption to have. She's got ornament again. It's sort of very long and luxurious. I do like that it makes love hearts throughout her sort of design, which again, emphasizing love. Who could have guessed? She's got lots of ornamentation. She's got lovely jewelry. She's got painted nails. Again, basically everything you might need to communicate that she's a goddess of love. Then on the right, things I love about this and things I don't love. So again, she's got the naked thing. She's got the long hair. She's got the ornamentation. That's all here. Biggest difference. She has weaponry now. See, this I feel like is a great way of adapting a sort of non-military god or goddess into this sort of new setting of the game. Because this is actually drawing from specific sort of incarnations of Artemis. I would say Artemis at Corinth, where she was typically sort of armed with a spear and a helmet, I believe. If I'm mentioning shit like this, I may be bothered to go and find and put an image in here, or I might not. You can take that as an opportunity to do some research yourself. So it could be Aphrodite at Corinth. I believe there's also armed Aphrodite in Sparta. Either way, taking inspiration from a real version of Aphrodite, usually as a sort of city protector, that sort of figure. So again, do love that, but love, of course, the weaponry, and the shield has the little hearts on it. Again, sticking with that theme. Something I feel like is a little bit weak here is just in the second one, she's just exceedingly skinny. Which, obviously, you can be skinny and attractive. No one's ever said that out loud before, so I'll be the first to say it. It is possible. I just think it's not really the right choice for Aphrodite here. I think we have already in the cast, we have lots of thin gods. Again, Athena is one coming up that'll get that sort of idea across. But again, if we're thinking of sort of sensuality, of luxuriousness, particularly if we're thinking of beauty ideals from the ancient world, she should have a little bit of meat on her bones, I think. I think that's just a bit of a missed opportunity here. So you do find, though, in the sort of Hades 2 imagery, she's got the sort of face paint of her eyes, and that connects her with her little fling, her hubby, Ares. So let's talk about Ares for a little bit. Speaking of that, he does have that sort of white paint over his eyes, so that sort of war paint idea, because Ares is a god of war. Very specifically, he's a god of sort of aggression, of violence. He's always sort of associated with what they call the red mist. So when a metaphorical sort of mist descends on the battlefield and people get angry, they go nuts, they hurt people, they're lost to violence. So that's who Ares is. He doesn't get worshipped like the other gods. He's often more literary than anything else. Either way, we've got him here. Of course, he is in the sort of full armor. He's got 2 swords in his back and 1 in his hand. So again, weaponry. He's associated with war. That's great. He's very pointy. So he's got these sort of, they look like sort of feathers poking out of the sides of his shoulders there. He's got a sort of a cape that is in tatters. Again, this is, first off, visual language. He's pointy. Pointy means angry and bad. But I think also with those sort of feathers along with the sort of skull in the front, I think he's supposed to be associated with either sort of crows or ravens. Typically like symbols of graveyards. Dead people. But maybe even sort of scavenger birds sort of picking the battlefield clean. Things like that. Which again, I think is very effective. What else about him? I think one thing I'll say is I do wish would be a good opportunity to see here. So like we'll talk about Hephaestus a little bit earlier and sort of different body types, different sort of representation in this little cast here. he should have more war wounds, I think. He should have scars. I think even better, like losing fingers on his hand. Having a prosthetic arm, if that's something we're going to bring up here. Things like that, I think, could definitely show a lot more that he's supposed to be about such, like, thoughtless violence. But I guess the issue here is they do characterize him as a bit more calculated in this game, which is a choice, but I think it's a less interesting one, especially when you compare him to Athena. She's a goddess of war as well, but particularly of wisdom, so just sort of traditional warfare. She's got a lot of things. What am I going to talk about first? First off, she's in armor. Love that. She's got her big she's sort of covered with the helmet, but she has the typical sort of crest, but exaggerated. Again, she's supposed to be this grand goddess. She has her shield, again, famously associated with the sort of aegis, sort of shield with Medusa's head on it, which you can see on her little sort of breastplate down the bottom there. What else is interesting? She's got her little earrings again in sort of the shape of a shield, so very much emphasizing her as a sort of protector. You see that sort of circle iconography popping up a lot on her design. Because she's famously a protector of Athens. Then she's got, of course, little itty bitty owl on her fingers. First off, is very cute, but of course she is famously associated with the owl, symbol of wisdom, yada yada yada. She's not like that interesting. But she's good. She works. Hermes. I'm taking so long on these. I thought I would be like 10 minutes. I know that's not happening. Speaking of Hermes, maybe we'll pick up the pace a little bit. Hermes is another, like Athena, he's not like crazy. Like, he doesn't do anything that interesting, but he's very effective. Once again, posing is very strong. He's running. He's about going fast and having messages and going places. Love it. He's in a typical just sort of tunic. Again, it looks like on the little hem, he's got sort of like little little swirly lines. Again, he's running. But he's got the sort of winged sandals, even wings on his head now, which is, again, his sort of regular symbols. I love that he has the sort of scarf, that sort of covering thing, trailing behind him. Same with the bag. He's constantly in movement. He's got all the little sort of scrolls and stuff, again, letters he's delivering. Interestingly, they wouldn't really have, they say parchment a lot in Hades. They didn't have parchment. They had papyrus scrolls at the very most. But look, it's pop culture communication of ye olde stuff. I can be okay with some parchment here and there. What else about him? He's just got a traditional laurel wreath now. Not as interesting. And he's got a little caduceus there. So the little staff associated with Asclepius also, but it's generally a symbol of Hermes, but also of healing, the little sort of intertwined snakes there. Good job, Hermes. Also, he's got good legs. He's running a lot. He better have good legs. Dionysus. Oh, you complicated boy. I like this, and I hate it. I don't hate it. Again, strong posing. He's reclining. He's relaxing. You can see a little peek of cheek down the bottom, which I love. For character design reasons and for other reasons. To be a bit more specific, he's got that sort of wine, dark purple hair, which I love. Again, sort of, he's got the sort of blush on his face. Very sort of anime way of sort of showing intoxication. His laurel wreath is sort of grapevines with all these sort of clusters of grapes all over him. Again, very wine adjacent. A bit more niche, other than the sort of cup he's holding here, which looks a bit suspicious, which just works out for him. He's got the sort of little leopard print, animal print, sort of shawl business, sort of slung over him. He was typically associated with sort of leopards, with panthers, with animals like that. He also has that staff, which is sort of the thyrsus, which is another symbol of Dionysus, of fertility, of sort of revelry, of stuff like that. So that's all good. Another missed opportunity here. He shouldn't be buff. He's fucking ripped and toned, and I just don't think that works for him, personally. he's supposed to be about relaxing, of indulgence, of madness even. He's supposed to be about completely letting go. So I think looking like he goes to the gym and tones himself every day. And gym is accurate. They had gymnasiums. I mean, they didn't have like treadmills, but it's fine. Again, missed opportunity to sort of communicate his sort of character here. I do like the thigh strap, not for any reason. I just love a thigh strap. Hephaestus. All right. Let's talk about this. Well, first off, everyone's reaction to him, which is correct. He's really hot. He is. Good on him. They made a hotman. Not just because he had a forge, but because he is physically attractive. That's cool. I love it. Could use another pass or two though, I think, on the actual design here. So Hephaestus is a smith. He's a craftsman first and foremost. And I'm honestly not entirely sure that comes across. So he's got his big old hammer there, which, yes, I think is definitely trying to communicate that he is a smith. He's a craftsman. Just looks a bit too much like a warhammer to really communicate that to me personally. If you didn't already know he's a craftsman, this would have been a great opportunity to put him in some sort of dirty apron, have tools hanging off of him. I think, again, he's got his hair tied up a little bit, but like sort of Artemis earlier, have it be not pretty, just out of the way. Have it be practical, if that's sort of the thing they're going for here. As well, you think sort of all over him is covered in these crazy sort of decorations, so he looks very nice. But again, does this tell you that this is an outcast? This is someone who sits in his forge all day, working, tinkering? Not really. Tells me that he cares a lot about his sort of appearance. If that's how you want to go, then that's fine. But again, don't think it's quite as strong as it could be. I feel like a better way to communicate that is to have, for example, he has his wheelchair and he has his sort of prosthetic leg there. Obviously, he's communicating that he is disabled in this instance. I feel like it'd be better just have them not decorative, but just beautifully made. Shows that he puts a lot of effort into his craft, not so much in the sort of painting or the sort of appearing nice. I will say, missed opportunity here is Hephaestus is sort of in myth, sort of born with sort of deformities, more or less, to say it simply. Hera casts him off the mountain in response. He is generally believed to be ugly. That's his thing. I think it would... I'm not disabled myself, I can't speak on it, but I feel like, as I've heard other people say, that it would be a bad look to have your only sort of disabled character, your only character in a wheelchair, be unconventionally attractive. I feel like that would feel like a shame for people, which is, I feel like, the issue when you have your only sort of fat character, your only disabled character, all sort of shoved into one, when I feel like we have plenty more character design opportunities to sort of spread that throughout the cast, and have Hephaestus still be hot, but not sort of like conventionally attractive like he is sort of put together here. With the sort of beautifully sort of symmetrical, immaculate face. Because let me tell you, people go fucking nuts for traditionally unconventionally attractive characters. People go fucking crazy for them. I mean, right now, the Fallout show came out. Ghouls, people love a ghoul. Not saying go ghoul, but I'm just saying if people... broaden your horizons. Anyone can be hot. Thank you very much. And let's talk about Apollo. Oh, my lovely boy. So, what's going on with Apollo? He's a god of a lot of things. He's the one I study. I've studied him a lot. He's my specialty. He's a god of music. He's a god of archery. Those are the main ones. Music and archery are his big ones, but also of prophecy, of healing, of a few other things. And that comes across here. He's got the bow with the strings on it, so it's like a harp. This is very sort of typical for sort of musical arches. If you play Final Fantasy XIV, you are fully familiar with this concept. It's been done before, but it's also very effective. It also speaks to sort of actual ancient Greek trends. So they often sort of, they're both a bow and a harp or a kithara are both stringed items. They're both stringed instruments of music or death, respectively. So it's a cool little sort of communication, a cool sort of thing to bring up here. Other than that, though, he's fine. You don't get that much from him. In this game, he's associated with the sun, which is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, because he's really not associated with the sun very much at all in actual sort of ancient cults. He's a little bit in the Hellenistic period, but let's not get into it. He's generally sort of Phoebus Apollo, so shining or bright Apollo, but not the sun necessarily. Either way, if they want to go for the sun, that's okay. I'll forgive them. I will not send a bundle of rats to their home. The home of the devs, not to Apollo. Love you, boo. But look, he's got the gold, he's got the shining, he's got the blonde hair. That's communicating all of that quite effectively. And I will say, obviously something I haven't really brought up, just because I think it's fucking stupid that people complain about it, is skin color. These people are not icy pale, even if Greece is technically in Europe. That doesn't matter. Frankly, it didn't matter the Greeks, and it shouldn't matter to you. Many of the, like Dionysus, for example, was believed to be born in Asia Minor. All of these gods were worshipped. The Greek world was not Greece. It was mainland Greece. It was the islands. It was Asia Minor. So sort of the Asian coast of the Mediterranean and Northern Africa at like a minimum. So these people were worshipped everywhere. And you find coins of Apollo with that same hairstyle. Obviously, you can't tell sort of skin color. But anyway, you see cultural influences from everywhere. So I'd say this is in fact more accurate to think of it this way. Mainly the Greeks didn't care so much about where you came from and more so about who your parents were and do you speak Greek. That was their thing. Either way, we're inside Apollo. All right, last one I think before I'll stop for the moment. Persephone. Technically, as she looks here, she should be called Kore, or sort of maiden. So she's the daughter of Demeter, and she was typically worshipped as Kore, or maiden. Similarly, as sort of a fertility goddess, specifically agricultural, the land, things like that, and that's communicated pretty directly here. She has the basket with all the goods in it. She has a big garden. That's what's happening here. She's got green, which is the color of nature, usually. That's all good. I love how plain she looks. Because at this moment, she's not living the life of a goddess. She's hiding out on the surface of Earth. So she's wearing very typical clothing. So she is wearing the sort of regular sort of robe there, tied in a very typically sort of feminine way. I want to say himation, but don't quote me on that. I'm not a clothes historian. I do love she's got the little sort of stripes, the ropes along her chest there, which again, essentially the ancient equivalent of a bra, which was worn on the outside of the clothes. So love that. Again, she's posed very simply, sort of hands in the pocket again, but still give her that sort of casual, friendly, approachable nature. I like she looks a little bit older, which again works with the story. She's typically supposed to be a maiden, but she's supposed to be sort of in this context, going beyond that. She's out of her initial circumstances. She's sort of making other decisions. I do love, again, she's lacking the wreath that sort of defines all the other gods, but she's got those, look like some little bit of lavender, a little bit of flowers there, still framing her head in a way that's reminiscent of those people. And of course, she's got the hair that's just like Zagreus. So I think a very effective, not only sort of ancient Greek god design, but good for narrative purposes. Communicates really all you need to know about her. So I'm going to check my recording still works, and then I'm going to continue if I can. Alrighty, I'm back. I checked that my microphone was on and made sure my phone wasn't going to run out of battery immediately. I've decided I'm going to chat a little bit more about this. So we're talking about Persephone. She's the last of the sort of Olympian gods, more or less, that we'll be talking about. Just a note, I will have a slight sort of design spoiler in a second, so watch out for that. But with Persephone done, we've got an excellent segue into the chthonic gods, and specifically the rulers of the underworld. So, finally, we're having a little bit of look at Zagreus and his little parents here. I've put Hades first for a very specific reason. So let's talk about him first. Hades, ruler of the underworld, another figure that really, apart from maybe one or two examples, doesn't receive worship. So again, he's more of a character in myth than in religion. So he's one that you can be a bit more loosey-goosey in how you adapt him. First off, as is normal for Hades 1, posing, excellent. It's sort of a low shot, so he's literally looking down at you. He's wide and imposing, and he's got the dark shadows. He's got the red eyes. Essentially, he looks scary, and that's primarily a narrative thing. Obviously, he's spoilers again. Hope you've finished the game. He's the final boss of all your runs. He should be scary, and that succeeds here. He's got the sort of red and black color scheme, which is sort of typically communicates hell, I suppose, in modern parlance, even though those aren't really colors associated with death in the ancient world. The underworld was not fiery. They usually used white for sort of funerary scenes in art, so that's not ancient, but again, when it comes to modern sort of narrative communication, works well. Very obviously, I need to stop hitting that piece of paper. He's got skulls, so he's got that one on his shoulder. He's got the little skeleton mouth on his belt there. Again, symbols of the dead. And quite interesting, he's got a bunch of gemstones, so he's very sort of highly ornamented. I assume sort of associating him with the sort of wealth of under the earth. I'm not sure if that has any precedent in terms of actual myth. I don't think so. But it's cool. I like it. And I like that they use gemstones and all these different sort of things as currency in the game, which is quite fun. And the reason I have Zagreus second is because he's essentially a reflection of his dad. And he's quite an understated design. So he has the same color scheme. He's got the red and black for the same reason sort of Hades would. Well, I know I've put him second. Zagreus was probably designed first. It's fine. Anyway, he's a reflection of his dad in terms of sort of design, but he looks a lot more approachable. He's got that one sort of green eye like his mother. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. He's smaller. He looks approachable. He's got the skulls because he's still in the underworld. He's got this sort of Cerberus sort of shoulder guard, which is a little bit odd, considering that sort of Cerberus is his friend, his pet. I don't know if they decided on the design first. I don't have a lot to say about Zagreus. He is effective as a protagonist. You don't want him to be too flashy, really. Then you have Persephone. So specifically what Persephone would be called when she's down in the underworld as the queen of the underworld. I will say in general, I've got a little bit of a pet peeve of people sort of wibifying the Hades Persephone story where they actually love each other, and Persephone's liked it and it was all great. It's done well here. I just feel like it's just overdone at this point. Just Hades is good, don't make any more of them. That's all I ask. Persephone here is quite interesting because obviously she has the same face, she's the same person, but her outfit is totally changed to reflect her new position. So she has all the same ornamentation as her son, but particularly of her husband. She retains the green ribbon in her hair that she had on the surface, but I do miss any sort of agricultural association, which I would have loved. A bit of pomegranate. Have some pomegranate stuff floating around in there, I feel like would be nice, but look, it's fine. Nyx, so I got very excited there. I spoke very, very loudly. Essentially, a lot of the gods here, so Nyx and all of her children, they're not gods of things. They are personifications of concepts. And that's why when you look in the little dialogue box, it doesn't say Nyx, goddess of night. It says Nyx, night incarnate. Because she isn't a sort of figure in religion, in myth, that, yes, it's me, Nyx, and I preside over the nighttime, and I do other things, and I go kickboxing. No, she just is the night. She is darkness. And same with her kids, and for that reason, you can, once again, just go ham on the design. You can just make them look good. You can just do all of this. You can make up your own associations, your own iconography, which is quite fun. So, of course, the sort of striking thing here with Nyx is first and foremost her color scheme. So she has the sort of gold and the skulls that associate her with Hades, with the underworld. But primarily she's purple, which is not really a color we see on anyone else so far. She's got, number one, she's got the hair that sort of splays out, shows the night sky underneath it, which is very unique and I think very striking. She's got the pale skin. Again, she's not tanned because she's not in the sunshine. Yeah, and she's got these sort of purple gemstones, which of course darkness, currency in the game. But again, they're sort of their own iconography. Those are now symbols of Nyx. I do love as well a sort of purple ribbon sort of floating. Again, makes her seem very sort of ethereal, very sort of, again, she's very powerful. Makes her seem sort of intangible. That's the word I'm looking for. Very much sort of like night. Another thing as well I'll mention is the sort of, again, I believe sort of, they're supposed to be sort of crescent moon sort of symbols on her shoulders. Again, the night and moon and the little stars in her headband. Those are things you see at night. I don't know if I can wink in this model. I don't think it works. I'll do my best. Hypnos. Again, Hypnos. Do whatever you want. These are going to be pretty quick for obvious reasons. Hypnos, he's got a big comfy blanket on because he is sleep incarnate and he's very sleepy. So that's great. Got the messy bed head. That's great. It's got the little cute little eye mask. Again, with sort of very Greek style eyes on it. These are all things that communicate that he's a sleepy little lad. That's all good. Again, strong, even with this sort of standing up, is quite strong posing. Casual, sort of half-lidded eyes, sort of not limp wrist in like the gay way, and I'm allowed to say that. You know, not SpongeBob meme limp wrist, but just sort of very loosey, very casual happening here. Good. Got the red and black of the underworld, because he has a job there. Wahoo. Little tiny little feature. Here's those little flowers on his sort of midsection there. And when we go to the second design in Hades 2, we see a lot of them. So now he's tucked in to his little sort of cloak here. His hair is so much longer. He's still got the sort of eye covers. I forgot what they're called. Sleeping mask. I just said it. But the big one, he's sleeping in a little bundle of poppies. Of course, poppies where you get sort of opium from, so very much associated with sort of sleep in that regard. And I do love that his sort of hair is so long, still messy, but clearly been growing out because he's been asleep for a while for some indeterminate reason. Now let's look at some more Nyx children who I've graciously labelled the silly siblings. These are some more people, some more characters that you can just go nuts on. We don't really, I mean, other than maybe a few pots or two that I'm not familiar with, don't have a lot on them, so you can do what you want. First up, we have Thanatos. Thanatos. He is the Grim Reaper, in a modern sense. So he is sort of obviously death incarnate. Thanatos just means death. But the sort of the images he's pulling from are modern pop culture conceptions of the Grim Reaper. So he has a scythe to harvest souls. That definitely works. He's got the he hasn't got the big cloak of the sort of typical death, but he does have essentially the hood. He's wearing the sort of typical sort of Greek style clothes, but he's got a little hood addition on there. Again, very typically death. He's got the little skull on him, but other than that, I think they just added stuff to make him look cool. He's got the little gold features again, associating him with the underworld. Then we have Nemesis in the middle. See, now here is an excellent opportunity for someone to be fully armored. Interestingly enough, this is not armor you would see on a Greek soldier. This is much closer to sort of like a medieval full plate knight. My throat's giving out. I'm doing too much yapping. I'm nearly done. She's like a medieval knight, which again is not historically accurate, but it's to communicate to the audience she's a military figure, she's violent. Well, not violent, she's dangerous. I mean, she's holding her sword here. She's got that little sort of shield there. Again, shield is very pointy. It's very angry. Again, she's dangerous. Something I will note, you see this sort of 3 circles on her sort of chest piece there, that plate armor. Very typical of a specific type. I don't remember. It's not trefoil breastplate. Is that anything? Anyway, there's an ancient Greek style of chest armor that it's just those 3 little circles with a bit of bronze in the front. So I think that's definitely what they're sort of playing off here. But yeah, she's got big buff arms, works for a sort of goddess of vengeance. Then we have Moros, or sort of Doom incarnate, and he's very interesting. I don't have a lot of thoughts. He's got lots of what looks to be sort of like beaks or some sort of pincers on his shoulders, but then he's got sort of horns on his head. I will say this is the one instance in Hades 2, I feel like, where you see a bit of posing coming back in, which I do love to see. He seems reserved. He seems a bit not unsure. He seems confidently reserved, but he's got his hands behind his back. One of his eyes are in shadow, so it goes, mysterious. But again, I think that the little ornamentation's got almost sort of like Egyptian style sort of colors and decorations on his little sort of belt wrap there, which I'd be quite interested to see. I also want to know why his hair is hanging off of his antlers like that. I would certainly never do that with mine. I'm very put together. But I'm very interested to see where we go with Moros, because Nemesis is like, yep, I see what's going on with you. Moros, we can do a lot more with the idea of Doom, and I think a big part of that will be characterization. I forgot I put Chaos in here. Now, they are exceedingly interesting. So Chaos is essentially, before anything existed, there was just chaos. So here we have this figure here they look very androgynous. Of course, sort of they're supposed to be everything and nothing, which I think they do an excellent job of communicating, but that's mainly communicated by the sort of body horror mess that's going on here. So they have the very sort of beautiful face, but then the body is morphing and mixing of all these different shapes and faces. Got all the different colors sort of behind them. They've got the wings out of the head. They've got all these funky stuff going on that tells you they're a mix of everything. Got the eyes on the forehead. You've got all sorts of funky stuff going on here. And I think it's supposed to be otherworldly. It's supposed to look at it and mess with your head a little bit. It's supposed to be scary, but awe-inducing at the same time. And I think they fully succeed at that. And finally, having the earth just in between their fingers there. It's a lovely little sort of hint at their power. Love it. And if you hear my computer going nuts, don't talk about it. I'm doing my best. I don't know why my computer hates me literally just recording audio and a screen, but that's fine. Anyway, my special boys. Everyone who says that they like Achilles and Patroclus are fake fans. I like them the most. I got a degree in ancient Greek and I translated the Iliad, not all of it, but I translated their passages out of ancient Greek, and it reads better in ancient Greek and I get to be smug because it was really hard to learn that language. Anyway, also if you bring up Song of Achilles in the comments or to my face, I will suplex you. Anyway, that's a different discussion. Let's talk about them very briefly. First, we have Achilles. First, I want to say excellent characterization, just in terms of dialogue. He is, pardon my squeaky chair. He's impetuous. He's angry. He's petty in life. But after the events of his life, of course, losing his love Patroclus, losing his good buddy, falling into a rage, regretting his actions, makes sense that in the afterlife, in the underworld, he would reflect. He would get a bit more mature. I love to see that. In terms of his actual design, it's good. He's got, of course, that big, strong arm. He's got that bracer, again, communicating he's a warrior. He's strong, holding that spield. That's not a word. That spear. Can you tell I've been talking for too long? That glorious hair. Again, that sort of diadem. Again, he's sort of royalty here. And that big sort of heavy cloak as well, clasped with the symbol of Hades, because he is sort of trapped in his service here. So he's very good. Not crazy impressive, but he's excellent when compared and sort of paired with Patroclus. And I love Patroclus' design in this. I mean, part of the reason I hate Song of Achilles, you can love Song of Achilles, that's fine. I don't like it as an adaptation of the Iliad, is why I have opinions. And part of this is because Patroclus is typically older than Achilles. He is sensitive and he is caring, but he's also an experienced warrior, and I feel like that comes across in this design. He's got a beard, which the idea that Patroclus was bearded and Achilles wasn't was a big thing in the ancient world. Beard was the sign of being an older, mature man. So I love that he's got that going on. Other than that, the rest of the design very much sort of compares him to Achilles. So he's wearing the same sort of cloak, so he still has remnants of his old relationship, of his old life. But as we see here, he's not holding a weapon. Not holding a weapon. Again, his posing is very strong, while Achilles is sort of maybe a bit mournful, but he's sort of sure of himself now. Patroclus is looking to the distance. He's sad. He's sitting down. All these sorts of things. But we find, when we finish their quest, yata, they're unified now. They're being brought together finally, and very intentionally. Their poses are mirrored. Almost exactly. Which I don't need to explain. That this is obviously about them coming back together, about resonating, sharing their history in their life, again, communicating all this sort of character growth through art, which is fantastic. And I do like... actually, no, he still has. I was going to say he gets a laurel wreath. He had one. I just never noticed it. That's fine. Anyway, last ones. My throat is fucking giving out. I forgot to fill up water. Oh well. We have Silly Boys number 2. Here we have Theseus and Asterius, aka the Minotaur, the Minotaur, the big bull boy. I honestly don't have a lot to say about these two. I just like them. Theseus has nothing that identifies that he's Theseus. If he wasn't named that in the game, you would not be able to tell. But he's doing the little sort of DreamWorks smirk. He's really buff. Yeah, he looks like a prick. Cool. He's got the sort of swished back hair. Good work. Asterius, very interesting design. You can tell. So typically, the sort of Minotaur has no clothes on. It's very animalistic because again, he is not a civilized human being. He's a monster that's getting trapped in a labyrinth. But here, of course, he's taken on the ornamentation. He's taken on the clothes and the styles of a Greek warrior to sort of show, how he is now in the underworld. I do love the pink across his design. I assume it's for gameplay reasons. Their fight is fucking hectic, and having that pink on his horns, but mainly on his axe, makes it a lot easier to read. And I'd imagine it was added to the horns to sort of unify his design here, along with on the sort of hands. Because I will say, most of the people and the art we're looking at, they don't actually show up. They show up only in artwork. Asterius, again, as one of the bosses, is someone who'll show up in the overworld as well. So that sort of gameplay considerations also come in here. Either way, love him. He's a bull. He's a minotaur. I like him. I think he's physically and emotionally attractive. Emotionally might be a strong word. I think he's likable. Anyway, I don't have that much. I don't have anything interesting to say. I just want to look at him. He's nice. I want to hug him. I like his funny little hair. He's got nice eyes. Anyway, we're done. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I feel like I lost the plot a little bit at the end there as my throat disintegrated. And I had significantly less to say about the later ones because there isn't as much established iconography to go by. But I don't care. I get to talk about them because I want to. And if you're here, then I've trapped and manipulated you into watching this whole video, in which case I win. Bye.